Yeah, we'll do about 10 or 15 minutes of you and I just chatting. And honey, I'd like you to stay in the conversation too, because yeah, well, it's a lot. The energy between you two guys is great.
I know, but you know what I find, and I find this with African American women, Black women in particular, less so with Canadians. I think we're still a little standoffish with each other. When I meet another woman of African descent, we're instantly sisters. You find that?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, not always, but a lot.
Well, that's what
I'm
Laura's
surprised.
TED Talk was about a little bit, right?
Yeah.
The TED Talk was about
look for a sister.
Look for a sister.
But
Always.
yeah, and I'm surprised when we aren't. Like if I give somebody the nod of recognition and they don't give it back, I'm like, what? You didn't respond?
Who is you?
Right.
I'm like, this is my attitude. Usually, you know that you and I are the only two Black women on this plane. Right. And if shit goes down, you and I got to look out for each other.
We're just going to bring everybody into Scott Talks on that comment right there. This is Dianne Bondy and Laura chopping it up. And I'm just going to jump in because I think that's the only chance I might have here.
Pretty much, dude. Pretty much. You are outnumbered
I am
here.
pretty much a dude, too, compared to you guys.
You sound like my husband. He does something totally Alan would say. As a white dude, look how red you're getting, sweetie. As a white dude as well. As a white dude
I am a white dude, that's for sure. And since I've been a part of Laura's family, it's become more and more apparent to me just the world I come from.
My husband too. He's always like, I'm. What do you mean? I'm the only white person in my whole damn family. That's what my husband always says when somebody says.
I'm an only child, so I'm.
Yeah. So you're really feeling it then.
Always.
You're the only one in the room.
Don't go there. Oh, okay.
What? I was going to say you're the only one in the room.
I would say you were going to say I wasn't an only child. We have this ongoing conflict, but
is it kind of like the Posh Spice and the David Beckham? Tell the truth, Victoria. Your father drove you to school in a Rolls. Tell the truth, Victoria.
Well, I have a half sister that is 12 years older with me that I didn't grow up with, that I don't really communicate with. I have no real life experience.
He was raised as an only child.
That's wondering why we don't have more of a relationship. That's probably the only connection I still have with her, but. I love her. I love her anyway. Yeah. So, Dianne Bondy is a speaker, an educator, an equity advocate, a yoga teacher, a mom. She has a beautiful Instagram account that you should check out. You're a podcaster. What's the name of it? Do you have a podcast that's your own? Because I don't think I've.
Yeah.
What's the name of it?
The Intentional Wellbeing Podcast.
Oh, nice.
And I talk to other wellness and wellbeing providers because, as Laura's probably wildly aware, there's a lot of white people wellness, but there's not a lot of everybody else wellness. And so we don't get marketed to. It's kind of funny because a lot of our wellness practices get appropriated and co-opted and getting sold back to us as something new and whatever. And I'm like, no, we don't need to do that. We can just get together and do our own thing. So So I talk to people about what does intentional well-being look like for them as, a Black healthcare or mental health care provider or things like that. So I've had a lot of really cool and interesting guests on that podcast.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I, as a member of the dominant culture, I should say, the
global minority.
I have to admit, like up until I really started being close to Laura, I did not see that. I did not come from a world where, like, I would go into a yoga room and not notice that it was predominantly white and predominantly skinny and predominantly of a certain age group. And,
able-bodied, all the things.
Yeah. And I think, like I said earlier, like, I didn't realize how privileged I was until I started hanging out with Laura's family. She mentioned in the interview that we do a Sunday dinner with the family, and sometimes there's 15 people, and I'm the only white person here. And very rarely, what I've learned to do is listen a lot because I hear it. And I think initially I'd be like, why do you guys keep talking about that? Like whatever it was, right? In my head, right? And then I'd be like, a year later, be like, oh, they're still talking about that. And then I'd be like, oh, that's an issue. Like that's a thing. Right. That's not like that. It's an actual issue in the world. And this idea of becoming more aware for me took a while,
Yeah. You're just like my husband. He had the same exact reaction. You two should really talk.
Oh yeah,
It would be interesting.
What's his name again?
His name is Alan.
Okay,
Alan Bondy.
I like Alan.
The other, yeah. Alan, yeah, you guys have a very similar vibe and look. He'd actually wear that shirt. He's got more of a goatee than you, but you look very similar.
Laura won't let me grow this any longer, by the way.
Yeah, because it gets scratchy.
Yeah. That's the main
complaint.
complaint.
You is not, when it's like prickly and itchy, and interferes with my skincare routine.
I'm down. You guys are the two of you have amazing skin, so
yeah. Genetics, darling. Melanin is an antioxidant.
Ah, is it really? There you go.
It is really, actually.
Well, what's interesting is your conversation, that you had, it went back and forth between body image and race a little bit. And I wanted to ask you, is body image like your foundation for your advocacy? Is that where you sort of ground yourself or found yourself, and then it expanded from there? It sounds like you were in the yoga studios for years before you sort of really acknowledged that you're like, hey, I'm the only.
I would say I was in the yoga space for years where I was like, where are all the other Black people? I mean, it can't just be me, right? And where are all the other fat people? It can't just be me. But yeah, I would say so. Here's the thing with body image, especially if you're a racialized identity, that's the first thing everybody's going to see. That's the first thing people are going to judge you on.
Absolutely, right.
When Dr. Martin Luther King talks about the content of your character, the only way to know if people can see you for the content of your character is if they can't see you and they can only hear you. Or if you're typing across the keyboard, they can't make they can't make a determination on what you look like, because once they see what you look like, there's automatic stereotypes or ideas that come up, because living in a world that is colonized and upholds whiteness as the norm and everything else as other or less desirable, even without knowing, which is your unconscious bias, you're going to look at a person of color and make a determination whether you mean to or not. And what people don't realize is prejudice, the literal Webster's Merriam Dictionary definition, you can look it up. Maybe it's changed since I looked it up last year. Prejudice is to prejudge. That's exactly what it means, right? To prejudge a situation. And back when we were running away from tigers and things like that, it was important to prejudge a situation to see if we were going to be safe in that situation. But we've held on to that lizard brain, and we've been conditioned through education and school and conversation, and just by watching how the world treats people with racialized identities, to be cautious of folks who don't look like us, to maybe be curious. And so we make these judgments just based on our own lived experiences and teaching. And so it takes a long time to unpack that stuff. And unless you have a diversified friend group, or you're the only white person at Sunday dinner, you're not ever going to see this.
Right.
Why would you?
Right.
Why would you?
Well, and like you said, it's deeply entrenched. It's like lizard brain. It's a part of the subconscious, I think, and a lot of what you guys talked about, and a lot, I think, what yoga sort of slips in there is this idea that, like, once you see things over and over again in a certain way, it's really difficult to untangle that.
Unsee
right.
it. Yeah, for sure.
And that for me has taken a long time, and through these repetitive lessons of being like, oh, look, you're the only Black girl in the room, or the only woman, in this particular, like, working out, like you talk about toxic, what did you call it? Toxic working out,
fitness,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah, lots of junk. There's lots of trash out there. Lots of people saying a lot of untrue things and just being horrible for no good reason.
And it's just an awareness issue, right? It's like, if that's what everybody's doing in the room, then a lot of times we'll just jump in and be like that, so we feel comfortable in the moment. And very few times do we have somebody to point out, like, hey, that's not healthy,
No, and that's not necessary. And whenever I catch somebody saying something off-putting or making a bigoted comment, I'm like, wow, interesting. Perhaps you could elaborate and tell me what you mean by that. And making them sit in their discomfort just is so interesting to me.
They'll never forget
because
it,
white
by the way.
folks, right? White folks are rarely uncomfortable. They think every situation is about them and for them, and they have a sense of entitlement to a lot of things.
Mhm.
And then when you call them out in the moment, to watch them like kind of unravel is really entertaining for me.
Well, I think that's why.
And I'm like, you said that.
That's why I try to listen more than I speak anymore.
And I think that's wise. I think we could all take a lesson from that. But the minute they say something, I'm like, wow, you know what I heard you say was this. Maybe you could elaborate. And then the look of panic is always entertaining.
Yeah, well, I mean,
say that out loud. I forgot she was black.
You don't seem black to me.
yeah, shit like that.
Right?
What is that? Even me.
Dispose of that statement for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I think I really applaud you for one of the things I heard in your conversation with Laura was about accepting who you are, the way you are, and I think that that's an individual journey and a difficult one. I'm of your age group. I'm in that mid 50s, and I heard a comment the other day that I loved. This guy was speaking about ageism, which is a thing, especially in this.
It's a really big
in this
thing.
world. But he said the ego shows up for the first half of your life, and then the intentional self, the soul, shows up for the second half, and the soul's job is just to show up, and that is showing off. He said it was so rad, and I feel that about you, like that you're showing up to show off who you are and how you're good with it's being authentic and living authentically and showing other people that that's okay.
That's 100% okay, because can you just imagine if everybody in the world was the same?
Oh my God.
That we didn't have like, my favorite food is like Vietnamese food. I don't consider Caribbean food my favorite because it's a given. That's a given.
Right.
That's understood. That's it. That soul food is understood. The idea that I wouldn't be able to enjoy Mexican food or shawarma or, all the things because we'd only have one way to do everything seems redonkulous, right? Like it just seems stupid, for lack of a better term. And the world is so much more colorful when people just get to be who they are. Like, honestly, I just think so much creativity gets wasted. So many points of views get missed. But we don't get to use all the crayons in the box, like quoting from RuPaul, because I'm a big fan of RuPaul. We don't get to live the authenticness, or we don't get to live the fullness of who we are if we try to conform to something that was never ours to begin with. And I've gotten to an age where I don't give a shit anymore.
Well, and I think the important thing is that I have kids that are coming up, and I don't want them to suffer from the same, I think our goal as parents is to give our kids a better experience than we had, not just cars and clothes and opportunities, but a freedom to live in a way that allows them to.
We didn't get to.
No, exactly. Because
we didn't get.
You talked about the 70s and just how, I think about the 60s, 70s, how narrow-minded the whole world was, and how singular the lanes were, and now I think the gift of this generation is the openness of the world and sort of how everybody gets to navigate. But then again, it still has that those filters that social media create, and pictures of what is, I get trapped in those workout influencers who are like, yo, if you're not doing it this way, you're not doing it the right way.
Doing it wrong. You suck. Yeah, really? Am I though? Am I really though?
If I'm doing it, am I doing it wrong?
Right? Like, is that really a thing, or is that like your thing?
Yeah, right.
Because if it's a projection, you can just keep that, because I don't really.
And that's how they're making money at it. But I appreciate what you're doing, because I think one of the things I really wanted to ask you about real quick was making peace with who you are. One of the things you talked about was looking at your genetics to see how you are basically supposed to be versus how you had fought to be your entire life. Because I think eating disorders, shame-based cultures, they are all thriving in this place where we don't accept who we are and how we come into the world. And maybe you could just give us a brief idea of sort of what coming to, at peace with who you are and how that helped you.
To be honest, I think it came about two ways. Once when I got pregnant with my son 20 years ago. Oh, wow.
I know. I got
anyway, sorry,
too.
that was fast. I had to think about that for a second. And just realizing that my body was going to do this incredible thing, was going to create an entire other human being. And that was worthy of some respect. I mean, that's pretty amazing.
I mean, the men, we have to bow.
Listen, if you guys had to bring people into the world,
there would be nobody here.
The human race would just end, right? And then the second thing that really made me think is when I got sick with Graves' disease and people put so much focus on how small I was getting. And I realized that, a lot of what I was doing in diet culture really had nothing to do with what I was eating and how I was exercising, because I had this overactive thyroid where I could eat 5, 7, 10,000 calories a day and still lose weight.
Wow.
So it really taught me that it really had nothing to do with calories in, calories out, that it really had to do with hormones in my body, which I wasn't going to be able to control anyway. And that my genetics were going to win every single time. I am just always going to have a big butt. I am just always going to have big thighs. I'm always going to have my grandma's breasts. It's just the way it's going to be.
Sure.
And outside of surgery, it's just never going to change. And so at some point I just have to say, this is it. This is me. How long do I want to torture myself? And there's lots of studies that indicate if we can teach people to be dissatisfied with their body, we can continue in capitalism to profit off of them.
There you
body dissatisfaction. When I'm dissatisfied with my body, who wins? Not me. Some marketer somewhere who's going to sell me some retail therapy or some, plastic surgery or some magical pill that's going to take me to a place temporarily that I'm not supposed to be in. It's just never going to work.
Yeah, I love it. I think I'm getting more in that space of my own and doing movement to be happy and doing exercise to
for
be
longevity
confident.
To feel good. Yeah, when you look good, you feel good.
I just followed you on Strava, by the way, because I am on Strava. I cycle a lot, so I'll see you.
Awesome.
I'll see you on
there.
Are
you a Pelotoner? Are you like in the Peloton?
No,
community?
I don't. I'm an outdoor guy. Laura's got the Peloton downstairs. It's hers.
You need to seriously talk to my husband. He's an outdoor guy.
Uh-huh.
There is Rebecca the reformer. I'm going to flip. Do you see my spin bike? I'm not a Pelotoner because I refused to pay $3,000 for a bike I can't ride outside.
Oh, I feel you.
But yeah, my husband and I like to cycle in real life too. So that's amazing.
That's awesome. I have so enjoyed this. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Yeah, all of Dianne's information are in the show notes, and you can follow her on Instagram. And what is the name of you are changing the way we see yoga? No, wait. What is the name of your yoga group? Am I wrong here?
Oh, Yoga for Everyone.
Yoga for Everyone. You can follow her on that website too.
Yeah, yogaforeveryone.tv. Come see me. Come hang out.
Yeah.
Let's chill out.
Welcome. Maybe we'll try to follow you in Napa. That's not too far away.
Yeah, let's figure this out. I mean, I'm in the state. How hard can it be?
Thank you so much, Dan.
Thank you. You guys have a wonderful evening.
Right. Thank you, Dianne.